This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with not the Mark Weber.
Dub me.
Not the Mark Weber.
Dub
Here
me
with
still.
Sean Anderson. How you doing today, Sean?
I still have 2 E's in my name, so Dub me. I'm great.
You do? Do you have two? Oh, that's right.
Sean.
One in Sean and one in Anderson. I never
Dirt.
thought about that. I never thought that you had 2 E's, so you could
I
also
said that
dub
before
those
on this
E's.
podcast, so you have a terrible memory.
Well, it's been forever since you've been on the Onside Kick.
Very
just
true.
Me and you. But the one thing that I do bring up into my mind because of that is there are a few people on Twitter that they'll tweet at me, easy, it's just my name. When they tweet at Mark, they just do the Mark Weber, and it's some random guy in Milwaukee. Just some random guy in Milwaukee is
awesome.
getting all these mentions.
It's like John Jones.
Yes.
There's an English John Jones, and there's John Bones Jones, and people who, when John Jones tested positive in the UFC, people were always tweeting like hate stuff at him. He's like, I'm just a graphic designer in England.
It's just like I think there's this Fox reporter somewhere that his name is Chris Conti. So that cannot be
No.
that was not a good time for him when people were telling Chris Conti to basically go kill himself because everyone hated Chris Conti.
It's bad safety.
Yeah, really bad safety. But welcome into the Onside Kick. This is where we talk about football news, not really. I always say analysis, but I think we don't really analyze. We just kind of give our opinion on the news. And
We also don't know words because analyzed.
Analyze. We don't really dive into the film, but we talk about the big news in football for the week. We got a wide receiver show today. Wide receiver and a quarterback. Talking about Odell Beckham, Giants. Could they be trading for a #1 overall pick using their wide receiver?
Well, also a quarterback who could be a wide receiver.
Yeah, quarterback who could be so it could be a wide receiver.
Stick with wide
show.
receivers.
Then we got Dez Bryant. What's his future like in Dallas? And then we're looking at Lamar Jackson, best fits for him in the NFL. Before we get into everything, though, quick housekeeping. #1, you want to help support us, check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That link down below in the description. You want to get an MVP shirt, that store also down below in the description. You want to catch everything for MVP, just go to mostvaluablepodcast.com. That's where it all goes. You can check it out there. And then last but not least, give the Onside Kick a 5-star rating on iTunes. While you're there, just give all the MVP podcasts 5-star ratings because we all deserve it. Let's be honest. All the podcasts really
100%.
deserve it. And then if you're a Chicago sports fan, go and check out The Outcast, our newest podcast here on MVP.
Is that 5
I think
things?
that's it. I think that's all the 5 things that I
those
have.
5 things.
The only other thing that I kind of mention every once in a while, if you're listening not on YouTube, go ahead and go over to YouTube. Give us that sub, even if you're never going to watch a YouTube video, because it helps us out.
10.1K.
Yeah,
You guys are helping us
10.1K.
grow.
We are growing quick and on the up and up, and I hope it continues. I hope it just keeps going, just
We
like
will.
rapid fire, just up and up. But let's jump into this. And this first story is kind of a combining of two, because let's be honest, we could have had are the Giants going to trade Odell Beckham? Then have another topic of are they going to trade for the #1 overall pick? But in my mind, Sean, I've come up with an idea. Don't know if it's going to happen. Probably won't happen.
Tinfoil,
but
Ricky.
There's 2 stories here. There's the first of Odell Beckham. Do they trade him? Do the Giants trade Odell Beckham? Then there's another story that came out the end of last week of apparently the Giants love Sam Darnold. They would love to move up to #1 to make sure they can get Sam Darnold because the Browns, let's be honest, they go quarterback at 1. They'll probably go Darnold, even though they like Josh Allen overall. I'm going to ask you this. What are the odds that Odell gets traded in a deal for the first? How I'm mapping it out is it would be Odell and this year's second to the Browns for the first overall pick this year and the Browns' first rounder next year.
I think you got to balance that out a little bit. So the Browns are trading away their #1 overall pick.
You're
and not,
swapping picks. You're basically swapping 1 and 2s, and then it's Odell for next year's first.
All right. I mean, the trade, at least the way you laid it out, isn't terrible. The chances of it happening, though, I think are very slim. I don't think that's going to happen. I honestly, personally don't think Odell Beckham's going to be moved.
I think he's just going to be a Giant for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out in free agency what he does?
Well, they're going to have to somehow get him on the field at some point. And, they can't just let Odell Beckham not touch the field. And he said that he's not going to play unless he got a contract extension.
Yeah.
So they obviously have to work that out. I think they're keeping their mind open. Obviously, new GM, new front office. They want to make sure they're looking at every single possibility available. But I think in the end, the talent of Odell Beckham will not be enough from any team to match. So I think that's going to be the biggest problem, is that they're not going to be able to match what Odell wants. And I think, with Cleveland, I don't think they want to switch the 1-2. I think they want to make sure they get their quarterback, because at some point, you look at this, is Odell enough to, possibly let the quarterback that you want slip away? And with Cleveland, I don't think it's worth it, because, Odell Beckham, he might not be there next year if you're not able to lock him up. And then also, it's going to be a lot of cap into Odell Beckham. He just got hurt. He's also has a very big, personality off the field. He's, obviously we've seen him on the sidelines. We've seen him off the field as well. There's that video. We don't know if it's drugs or whatever, but still, he's a very big name. He's a big personality. We know these wide receivers can really develop a big ego. So I don't know if all that's really going to play out to make this deal happen.
Well, and the thing that I think of, and I was thinking about this coming in, and really this is going to also bleed over into the Dez Bryant discussion also, is in today's NFL, if your highest paid player is a wide receiver, in my mind, your team's in rough shape, because realistically, your highest paid player should be the quarterback. That's the guy who should be getting most of your money. And for me, the Giants, it's a sticky situation, because if you're going to trade Odell Beckham, the type of receiver that he can be when he's on the field, you don't want to give him to an NFC team, because like NFC East is out of the question. You see them twice a year. NFC to me is out of the question, because you don't even want to see him at all. And then it's like AFC, it's like, well, yeah, do we really want to give someone a leg up? That's why for me, the whole Brown deal is the Giants would be getting their guy, basically putting Eli on the clock, as if they get Sam Darnold. It's like, all right, Eli, you're on the clock. You also give Pat Shurmur the guy that he wants. If the Giants want him, Pat Shurmur probably wants him to work with. And to me, the Browns would be a great spot on the Giants side of, like, if they're going to trade him, the Browns would be a great team to give him to, because it's like, you know what? If he helps them win, okay, they make the playoffs. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. And he's not going to hurt us or have any chance of hurting us in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with the whole center of the AFC thing. You don't want to be facing them, once a year or possibly twice a year if you're going to the playoffs and matching up with, again, I mean, like, at worst, you're going to see Odell Beckham 3 times a year if you get him to the NFC East. But I think really it's going to be an AFC team that picks him up if they do. Again, I don't think it's going to happen just because, his talent is so big. I mean, this is the guy that came in and just started blowing up the NFL. And what he did in his rookie season was unreal.
Best receiver in football? Is that what we're going to say? Or do you think there's a best receiver?
Antonio Brown.
Okay.
And I would probably put Odell at 3 maybe with behind Julio.
So top 3, top 5.
Yeah, I mean he's a if he's the wide receiver on your team, he's
number 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question the talent on his side. Really, you got to question how he's going to come back from the injury. But without a doubt, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. It's just really, what do you value? But you look at what he's been able to do throughout his career, and what he can bring to a team. It's just the fact, and I think you brought this up. You don't want your best, your most played player being your wide receiver. You look at the Patriots. I mean, at some point, Tom Brady wasn't the highest paid player on the team, but right now, Tom Brady still has the largest cap hit on that team. The Steelers right now, Big Ben is still the largest cap on that team. You can have great wide receivers, but you need to invest into a quarterback. And right now, the Giants don't have that quarterback, and the Browns don't have that quarterback. So on the Giants side, I kind of see the idea of, let's package Odell and get the quarterback that we want for our future. But if I'm the Browns, you don't really need Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to help your team, but if you have a guy that can't throw the ball to him, then you're screwed. I mean, you're just wasting Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, Josh Gordon, all these weapons that you have, even Saquon if they take him at 4, you're just wasting those weapons away if you don't have a guy that can get him the ball. And I know people will say they have Tyrod Taylor for a year, but Tyrod Taylor isn't a franchise quarterback. You need somebody in Cleveland that is going to be able to heal the long wounds that have been left from, just terrible teams in Cleveland. You need a guy that's going to be there for 10 years. You need a guy that's really going to be a franchise quarterback. And Odell, he might be there for a couple of years, but we don't really know when wide receivers are going to fall off, especially with how hard people can hit these days.
And the good thing is, there's 2 things. First off, there's an article that I'm looking at ESPN.com where it's basically the price. What are you going to get for Odell? And they kind of list them. The first one they call the Brandon Marshall comp, which is 2 second-round picks. You're not going to get just 2 second-round picks for Odell. Then they have they call it the Marcus Peters precedent, the 4th and a 2nd-round pick. And then they have the dream scenario, and this is the one. If Odell is getting traded, this is what they are getting in my mind, 2 first-round picks. They are getting a pick this year. They are getting a pick next year. Or if they trade him next year, it's okay, we want to pick 2019 and 2020 in the first round. Good thing for the Giants, though, is there's 4 teams out of the top 5 cap salaries just for this year who could use a wide receiver and could have a high pick. One, we already talked about, the Browns. The second, so the Browns have about $70.6 million in cap right now, according to Spot Rack. Colts are right behind them at 61.3. They don't need a wide receiver, but if you're going to give me Odell Beckham for Andrew Luck to throw to, sure, go ahead.
Well, and I think they only made like 3 free agent signings so far. Like, they've been very quiet on the free agent end.
The 49ers, who, they just went out and paid Jimmy Garoppolo, but they didn't get any of the big wide receivers. Allen Robinson, they didn't get like a Torrey Smith to get traded over there. They could go and trade for Odell. And then the Tennessee Titans at 46 and 45 million are where the 49ers and the Titans are. So here's what I want to ask you. If there's a team that's going to trade for Odell and at least pick up that phone, which team is it going to be that calls the Giants and says, hey, what's it going to take to get Odell in our jersey?
Every team's probably making that call just to see, but I think if we're talking about teams that could actually do that, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's got to be a team with cap that's going to be able to extend them.
Even the Philadelphia Eagles with $3.4 million in cap space right now?
I think they're okay. I think they wouldn't be doing their due diligence not to make the call, but I think that call's going to be very short, especially when they say, hey, it's the Eagles.
No, I will give you Nick Foles for Odell Beckham straight up.
When Howie calls New York, I think that's going to be a short phone call. But again, I think most teams are going to be calling the Giants and just saying, hey, what do you want from them? Ultimately, I think it's got to be a team with cap. I think the most interesting one you threw out there, the 2 at least, are going to be the Colts and the Niners, just because they don't have I don't want to say T.Y. Hilton is a number one wideout.
But could you imagine T.Y. with Odell on the same team?
It would be disgusting. And the thing is, Odell would become the number 1. And we know how much Andrew Luck has loved T.Y. Hilton as a downfield threat. Odell is a monster on the outside as well. I mean, pairing those two,
have 2 number 1s.
Well, and exactly. And you're making Andrew Luck's job easier. But you look at the Colts, their biggest need right now is the offensive line. And they need that first round pick to be able to try to get a guy like Quentin Nelson to really bolster and protect Andrew Luck. So I think it comes down to probably the San Francisco 49ers are probably the clearest team that might throw something at the New York Giants to get Odell Beckham Jr. But then again, they need a lot of defensive help, and if Jimmy can put up numbers with Odell Beckham, are they going to be able to stop anyone on the other end? So like it's a tough balance of again, there's so much talent on Odell's side. And he's worth the contract that you're going to give him, but it needs to be the right fit where you have that franchise quarterback in place and you don't have any apparent needs. Like, you need that one more piece to put you over. And I think the 49ers and the Colts are much more than one piece away, pretty much.
The most interesting part about it is, when it comes to the Niners, to me, while you're talking, is whenever you listen to Draft Talk, and I'm kind of getting into this circle of belief of, I think when we get to the 9th overall pick and the Niners are there, it's going to be like, all right, Denzel Ward's not there. Tremaine Edmonds is not there. The guys that we were going to want are not there.
Fitzpatrick.
Let's trade back anyway. So it's the belief of like, a Bills are going to move up to 9 to try to grab a quarterback. A Cardinals are going to try to trade up. So for me, if you're the Niners, even if you have to give up that 9th overall pick for Odell, if you have to give up the 9th and next year's first, you get Odell, who's obviously worth a first-round pick, and then kind of, if you can weasel out maybe a second this year or a third, probably the second would be where I would be going. That would almost be more of a sure thing than, hey, we'll take your first this year for Buffalo and a second.
But let's look at the moves that John Lynch has made so far. They've been pretty calculated moves. He got Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round pick.
He's been a phenomenal GM so far.
The Bears trade, where the Bears moved up and swapped picks with the Niners and moved down. He's trying to build a team. He's trying to get as many picks as possible to make sure that he has the most abilities, the most possible chance to hit. And you look at the cap situation, that's going to stay fairly low because he's consistently drafting guys, and not all those guys are going to pan out and deserve a big contract. So with the 49ers and the moves that they've been making, I wouldn't be shocked if they, went out and tried to get Odell Beckham Jr., but I think it's got to be for the right price. And giving up a 9, especially if you're able to move down, I feel like John Lynch would probably be more of a savvy GM if he wanted to move down and then possibly try to pair some of those future picks to then get Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think he's going to give up that 9th pick just for Odell and then possibly even futures if we're talking about 2 firsts. I think that's too high of a price tag for Odell Beckham Jr. for a team to really splash on. Again, I'm not saying he's not worth it, but I think right now, with the way that the NFL is structured, you need a great quarterback, and then you need to be able to help him with that defense. And right now, the Niners don't have a great defense. And I think if you're able to at least get maybe 2 first-round picks or 2 a first and a second, and be able to slide back a little bit, and the Bills or Cardinals move up, that's going to be something that's going to be more beneficial to your team than getting a guy like Odell Beckham Jr.
Well, and I mean, with the Niners, too, an interesting thing with them is they didn't have anyone come over to them this year because it's like, all right, you got Jimmy Garoppolo. Woo, you haven't lost a game with them. But what's it going to be like in a 16-game season? This is going to be really the show-me season for them to where next year they're trying to ball out and get those free agents because it's like, oh, look at what we have now. Jimmy Garoppolo in a full season. And he's locked down, guys. Come on over. So I'm trying to look for next year's, no, not this year's, because Sammy Watkins came up. Like, no, he just got signed to a 3-year deal. So a Jarvis Landry could possibility, the Randall Cobbs, the Brandon Marshalls, the Golden Tates, Ryan Grants could be trying to come over. None of those are sexy names. None of those
I like
are
the Golden
Odell.
Tate one, but
yeah, but none of them are like Odell.
No, they're not top 10 wide receivers.
And for the Giants, working a deal with the Niners, that'd be great. You're telling me I can get my quarterback at 2, the guy that I'd want, or Saquon at 2, and then at 9, if I really wanted to, I could get a wide receiver like Calvin Ridley to basically fill the hole of Odell. So for them, it makes sense. But like you said, for the Niners, would that trade really make sense because of you're kind of giving up, not too much, but you're giving up a little bit of the farm to bank in Odell.
But one thing with the Giants, and let's talk a little bit about them, because the one thing that I've heard, and one thing after the JPP move that they made, I heard that they even might want to move down because they don't need a quarterback. Like they've said that they're committed to Eli.
Like they could move down with like the Cardinals, the Bills. Yeah. They could do that as well.
So that's the thing is, while they might be moving Odell, it doesn't mean they're not going to look to also move back because they might, again, just be trying to accumulate picks and helping this team out.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. You are now the GM of the Giants.
Congrats.
What would you rather, congrats. What would you rather do? Try to work a deal to trade up for that number 1 to get Sam Darnold, the guy who apparently, according to Canty, the Giants really love, or would you say, you know what, I'm not going to try to give up too much for that. Let's move back and work with a team like the Cardinals or the Bills.
I'm always in the mindset, because I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say this, because I said the same thing about the Bears and Trubisky last year. If you love your guy, go and get him, because that's your franchise. That's what you're going to be built around. So if the Giants made the move to go up and secure Sam Darnold for their team, I couldn't blame them, but I don't think that is the necessary need right now for them, because it's not a given that this team's going to be great next year. Like, if they make all the draft picks and selections, if they get Saquon at 2 or Quentin Nelson at 2, whoever they pick at 2, it doesn't make that team a playoff team. Yeah. It doesn't make that team, an 8-win team or something like that.
Even if they draft, I don't know if you just said this, if they draft Sam Darnold, it doesn't make them a playoff team because Eli's going to be the starter.
That's the thing, is that they've committed to Eli. So, and at some point, and then it's going to create all this QB drama of, if Eli starts throwing picks, which Eli has done before in his career.
We want Darnold.
Exactly. So it's just something that could be very toxic. So unless you are loving a guy and you're committed to him, I would say it's not worth it. And looking at the Giants, again, you might be in the same position next year or 2 years where you're still in the top 2 being able to draft another quarterback. So if you're committed to Eli for the next 2 years, then I feel like it's not a pressing need right now to go out and get a quarterback of the future, because at some point you're going to be still looking for a quarterback of the future, whether next year or the year after. So why don't you get a guy like Quentin Nelson who could protect that quarterback of the future in the upcoming years? Why don't you get a guy in Saquon Barkley who can be a great pair to a rookie quarterback and really help him when he's struggling and needs some offense, to start moving the ball a little bit when he's not able to do so. So I think that with the Giants, I don't think it's a pressing need to move up. If you are lucky and Darnold falls to it too, take them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessary to sell the farm and try to move up or possibly get rid of Odell where you can move him in a different spot and get more picks. to really just go up and get Darnold. So I feel like the love, if it's there, the love is great. Go and get him. But I don't think the need is technically there for the Giants if they're coming out and saying they're committed to Eli for the next 2 years. So I don't think the need is there to really warrant the love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if I'm the Giants, I only trade down if the Browns take. Like, if we get to draft night while Johnny and I are seeing Avengers and the Browns take
and Dave
Sam
and I are
Darnold
live streaming.
Dave and you are live streaming the draft. If the Browns say, we're going to select Sam Darnold, then I'm the Giants going, give me that phone. Give me that phone. We're making calls. Get me the Cardinals. Get me the Bills. We're not making this pick because, to me, you don't need it. Right when they made the JPP trade, my immediate thought was, I'm sorry, Colts, Bradley Chubb is a Giant.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to take Bradley Chubb because they just got rid of a pass rusher. Yeah. They can take one there at 2. But really, you can trade with the Cardinals, have a possibility of, like, Marcus Davenport could still be there. You could trade with the Bills at 12. Marcus Davenport could still be there to where you can get that pass rusher at 12, not have to take Bradley Chubb at 2, and you can get more picks from the Bills. However, what are the Browns going to do? That's the big thing in this is we don't know what the Browns are going to do. Are they going to take a Saquon? Are they going to take a Sam Darnold? Are the Browns just going to say, fuck it, we love our guy. We like Josh Allen. We're going to take Josh Allen number 1 overall.
That's what they need to do. Like when you guys, I love you and Mark, and you guys do a great job in your mocks. But when I saw Saquon number 1 from both of you going number 1, I was just like, no. I was trying to rip my hair out because that'd be such a Browns move.
The reason
there's only real quick. There's 3 quarterbacks that everybody thinks that could be top 5 picks, and the Browns are there at number 1. You have the choice of any of them. What do? We go with running back.
Well, the reason why in my mock I did that was I'm in the thought of, if you said, Ricky, I'm going to give you one of the top 4 quarterbacks at random, and you'd stuck with them, I'd be like, fine. Like, give me Darnold, give me Allen, give me Mayfield, give me Rosen. I'll make it work. That's the only reason, like I get they got Carlos Hyde. I like Saquon if you can get a quarterback at 4. However, with everything that's going on now, Jets moving up, Giants could trade down, I don't think Saquon's going to be number 1.
Well, they're not going to be number 1, but also what you were saying, it's like you can make it work, but it's also the Browns. Like everything that the Browns try to do just goes wrong for them.
Yeah.
So if you love a guy,
in 2 years.
If you love a guy, just go and get him.
Just take him.
Just take him. Don't think about who's going to be there for. Take the guy that's going to possibly be there for the next 15 years in a Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. Even if people are going to hate the pick, if they don't believe in Josh Allen, like I don't believe in Josh Allen, if you believe in Josh Allen, commit to it. Go number 1 and take him. Don't trade for Odell Beckham Jr. You have Josh Gordon. You have Jarvis Landry. You can get wide receivers late in the. You also have Corey Coleman as well.
Yeah.
You also have you have the ability to get other wide receivers. You have a number 1 in Jarvis Landry. You have a possible number 1 as well in Josh Gordon. He just hasn't had a quarterback in 3 years to either throw to him or he's never been on the field.
He's kind of got one now in Tyrod.
Yeah. So I mean, and you also have that safety blanket of Tyrod, but that safety blanket's only going to be there for a year because you're not going to pay Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, you could try to get him on a 1-year deal if you really wanted to.
But I'd see if with Tyrod being 28, I feel like Tyrod's looking for a longer deal. So if he's going to get a longer deal for possibly a little less money, I feel like he's probably going to take that because it's at least going to be more guaranteed money. So if I'm the Browns, if I love a guy, I'm taking him at 1 because you need a quarterback. You need to stop adding names to that jersey
and
list.
The thing with the Browns that I think will be hard for them to take, let's say Josh Allen is the guy that they love. The thing that's going to make it hard for them to make that pick at number 1 is how many people have you heard say, well, he's going to need a year or 2. Well, you only got, like you said, you only got Tyrod for 1 year. Yeah, depending on how things progress, but look at, like, I know Deshaun Kaiser's not in the same bracket as Josh Allen, but look at how they handled Deshaun Kaiser. Oh, we put him on the fast track, and now he's in Green Bay. Where Josh Allen, to me, it always made sense if he's going to go to a team, go to, like, a New York. Then Eli's not under pressure for at least 2 years. When his contract's up then you can just say, all right, Eli, it's been a great time. You think you're going to retire? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Or are you going to Brett Favre it on us and go somewhere else? Like, and then it's Eli's decision at that point where, all right, we're moving on with Allen. We've had him for 2 years. This is year 3 of his contract. But with the Giants, with the Browns, I think Sam Darnold's going to be the number 1 overall pick no matter what.
Yeah,
because the Browns are either going to have to go, well, we like Allen, but we can't fuck this up. We can't, like you said, we can't add more and more names to that list. Give me your top 2. When we get to the draft, what do you think will be the first 2 names off the board, and will it be Browns, Giants?
I think it's gonna be Browns. I think it's gonna be Browns number 1. If it's not quarterback, I'm throwing something through Dave's window. I think ultimately it will probably be Sam Darnold because at his pro day he's been impressive. I know he didn't throw at the combine, but yeah, even that he was thrown in pretty decent. I mean, he was thrown in cloudy weather, but then it hit the rain and he still looked great. And I think again, you look at the ability. The negative side of him is just turning the ball over, and I would rather have a great athlete who's turning the ball over as long as he can win me games late. And he's proven that at USC that he can win games for his team. And he didn't have that great of a team this year and still willed them to a pretty decent record this year in Southern California. So I think that Sam Darnold's going to be the number 1 pick and Cleveland Browns are going to take him. The 2 is going to be interesting because I feel like the Giants should trade down because even though they love a quarterback, even if it's Darnold, I don't think the need is really warranted. To go out and get a second-year quarterback, especially a guy like Darnold who's nearly pro-ready. So I would say it's tough about what team is going to make that move. But looking at the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals, with the defense that they have, having Fitz, having more of an accelerated clock, I think that they might trade up to 2 and then either take Allen or Rosen. I like Rosen. I like Rosen better as a prospect, so I would probably say Rosen at 2. So Browns go 1 with Darnold, 2. Cardinals trade up and go with Allen at 2. Or Rosen at 2, I'm sorry.
I want chaos in general, so I want as many trades as possible. But how I see it going is the Browns will stay at 1. They will take Sam Darnold. Number 2, I think the Giants at the moment stay at 2 and will either go Nelson or Chubb. Whatever they value more. If it's Nelson or Chubb, I would pick Chubb before Nelson because I'd rather have that pass rush. Plus, I can get an offensive lineman later in the draft.
I'd go Nelson though because
you got to protect
from
Eli.
what we've seen, what we've heard. This guy's a can't miss.
Yeah.
So it's like even though the offensive line isn't great in New York, but adding a guy like Quentin Nelson can really just change it, and just especially if you're going to go with a quarterback either in the second round or you're going to go next year or the next 2 years, like you need a guy to be able to protect him. Quentin Nelson could be a guy on your line for the next 10 years.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below about the Odell Beckham thing. Where will he be traded? Will he be traded? What's going to happen with Odell? And then also, what's going to happen with the draft?
I don't think you answered. Is he going to be traded?
No. He's going to stay all the way to the end of the year, and we'll see what happens in free agency. But let us know what you guys think down below in the comments section. But Sean, let's move on into the next topic. And you know what else I just realized as we were in between recording these segments?
What's that?
Very NFC East heavy podcast today.
It is.
Going Giants with the first segment. I almost said first pick. Now we're going with the Dallas Cowboys. And the big news for them is last week they signed Allen Hurns, wide receiver, after the Jaguars cut him. So they get a 26-year-old, 4-year pro, only signed him to a 2-year deal. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, this to me screams a signing to where it's like, all right, Terrence Williams, your time is probably up in Dallas. However, a lot of people are talking about how the question becomes, is Dez Bryant done when it comes to the Cowboys? So, thing I'm going to ask you to start it is, first off, about Allen Hurns, what do you think about that for the Cowboys? Do you like it, not like it? What do you think there? And then the meat and potatoes, what's Dez Bryant's future in Dallas?
Well, with Allen Hurns, Terrence Williams not only might not be there, he's also hurt. So he's dealing with an injury right now. So they needed another outside threat because they have Cole.
He can't get out of bounds anyway. So he'll stay in bounds and he'll lose to the Giants.
They also have Cole Beasley as well, who works inside the slot. So, I mean, they have weapons on the outside, and again, it's just going to make Dak's job easier, which then again is just going to open up running lanes for Zeke Elliott. Allen Hurns, I don't really know if he's a game changer, but we saw, again, that one crazy year where Blake Bortles was going off. Allen Robinson was healthy. Allen Hurns was healthy. Allen Hurns had a great year alongside Robinson. So, I mean, I think the potential's there. Again, he's young, only 26, like you said. I don't know if Dak is the right quarterback, but again, we saw Dak in his rookie year look absolutely fantastic, be close to a top 10 quarterback, if not a top 10 quarterback. And then last year, again, he didn't have Zeke. He really didn't have Dez Bryant playing like Dez can. Again, he doesn't really attack like Tony Romo used to do down the field. So we'll see if Dak makes those right progressions as a quarterback does throughout his 3 years, getting more confident throwing the ball down the field. But I think that's going to be a lot in Jason Garrett's development as well. I think that's a little bit on Garrett just because being a former quarterback, working with Tony Romo throughout his career in Dallas, I feel like he's got to start bringing that out in Dak and giving him more confidence because we know he's great, with his feet and also being able to throw within 20 yards, but it's really about hitting those home run plays, and we really haven't seen that from Dak with the arm. So I think that's really more on Jason Garrett. So I like the signing of Allen Hurns just because, again, he's young and has potential. I don't know if it will work out, but then again, if Terrence Williams comes back healthy, you still are just adding a fourth wide receiver who could possibly be dangerous. Mm-hmm. And he had a decent year last year, again, catching 2 touchdowns, 484 yards. So a decent year from Allen Hurns, but we saw better from him before. And then with the Dez side, I've never really viewed Dez as a top wide receiver. I know people might kill me on that.
Even with Romo?
Well, I mean, again, I think it's tough because the past 3 years he hasn't been Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is that it's tough to really go back and say, and really view how great he was. I know Cowboy fans probably have fond memories of him, but again, it's really what have you done lately for me? In the past 3 years, he hasn't been Dez Bryant. He hasn't been that game changer. Again, that falls on Tony Romo being injured, Dez not being fully healthy, and then again, Dak not really trusting himself, making those tight throws that Tony Romo used to be not afraid of.
And I mean, he hasn't had over 1,000 yards since 2014.
Yeah.
Last year he had 69 receptions, his most since that year. But because of what Dak is, only 838 receiving yards, not near that 16 touchdowns over 1,000 yards receiving he was in 2014.
Well, it's his lowest yards per reception as well in his career at 12.1. Yeah. So again, he was fully healthy last year, well, close to fully healthy. He wasn't 100%, but again, he was close to the Dez Bryant that we saw before. And again, it was a decent year, 838 yards, 6 touchdowns, but I don't know if that's worth the contract that you're giving him right now. So again, I just think it's really more about if Dak is going to, if this is all we've seen from Dak, then I don't think Dez Bryant is the guy to put on the outside of him. So I think that Dez's time could possibly be up in Dallas, but I think we'll probably know that once the season starts. I don't think that's going to be a move that happens from now until preseason starts.
And the thing that, going in what we just talked about, we talked about Odell Beckham. We said, what's the possibility of him being traded? If you asked me who's got the higher possibility of being traded between Dez and Odell, it's Dez. Because 100%. Number one, Dez, the Cowboys don't need Dez to make the playoffs. They don't. They didn't, let's be completely honest. That rookie year with Dak, they didn't need Dez. He had one of his lowest.
He was injured half the year.
Yeah, he only played 13 games that year in 2016. But they didn't really need him out there. Cole Beasley was really the guy that was becoming Dak Prescott's favorite target. Dak is also a guy to where he's very unselfish with it, to where he's not going to lock down and go, yeah, you're my guy, I'm going to you. Even Jason Witten, where Romo was there, Jason Witten was Romo's safety blanket. Whenever he needed a big play, all right, I'm going to try to go to Jason Witten. But no, Dak spreads the ball. It's whoever is open. That's who I'm going to throw the ball to. And just the philosophy of the Cowboys right now, you've got a young quarterback who's your future. You've got one of the best, I'm going to say the best young running back in the game, if not one of the best all-time running backs right now. Not all-time in all-time, but right now. Overall, one of the top.
Zeke's a top 5 running back. Possibly top 3, too.
Why do you need, of course there's all right, we need a guy that can stretch the ball deep and go deep if we need it, but do you need such a high-caliber guy? And the thing that I felt about Dez recently, last few years, is he's kind of what T.O. kind of ventured into, where it's you're more of a drama queen than a wide receiver. And I get the wide receiver is supposed to be a diva. That's just their personality on the field, but with Dez, it's all right, for the amount of headache that you give me with that, are you really worth it with what I'm going to get from you with the current roster that we have? And because his contract has this year and next year, I think that he could be a better trading piece than an Odell, because they could call up a team like we talked about in the first segment of the 49ers and go, yeah, you're probably not going to give us what you would give for Odell, but you would have Dez locked down for an extra year and not have to worry about we've got to pay him at the end of this year.
But then also there's a potential out for those teams. So if he doesn't perform the way that you want to,
you can say we're done.
Yeah, I think that if we're talking who's more likely to be traded, Odell or Dez, it's clearly Dez. But again, it's just more of what is he worth? Because again, we talked about the tiers for Odell. There's the 2 first. There's the Marcus Peters.
There's the fourth and a second.
The fourth and the second, and then there's also the Brandon Marshall, which I think it was 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
But I think there was also what Brandon Marshall trade was that?
That they were just calling it the Brandon Marshall comp.
Okay, because I think I might be wrong on this, but I think the Marshall trade from the Bears to the Broncos, or I'm sorry, the Dolphins to the Bears, that was a third and then a future pick. So I mean, like, and you look at Brandon Marshall in those days with Miami, he wasn't the same Brandon Marshall, but you were still taking a chance on him. So I think Dez is a better player than Brandon Marshall was back in Miami. But
are you talking about the trade that the Bears traded him away?
No, they brought him in.
Okay,
they brought him in. So the one that brought him in from Miami to Chicago. They traded a third and a future. I could see that possibly being a deal for Dez, where it's not a second and that because, again, you're still taking on $12 million for a guy that hasn't had a 1,000-yard season in 3 years. But you're also taking on Dez Bryant, who has shown that he can be a top wide receiver in the game. It's just really, can he stay healthy? Is it going to be the right combination between him and the quarterback? And then also 3, I'm not really worried about his ego too much. No one's going to be as big as a drama queen as T.O. was, and I think if anyone's close to that right now, it's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. Dez, I think he's fiery, but I don't think he's really that big of a drama queen. I think he could really set that aside and be more of a team player. So I'm not really worried about that. It's just really as long as Dez can be healthy and he has the right quarterback, he can be a true game changer. So I think it's if the team is right, I think, again, we talked about this earlier, I could honestly see San Francisco possibly being a team that makes that move. Because if they trade back, they're going to get some picks, and then they can take some of the picks that they just got and then possibly bring in a Dez Bryant, who could be an outside threat for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, and using the Brandon Marshall comparison that you brought up was, so when the Dolphins traded him to the Bears, they got 2 third-round picks for Brandon Marshall. And the age, Brandon Marshall was going into his the 2012 season, which would have made him 28 in 2012, where Dez is a year older. He's 29 coming into this season. So you do have 1 more year. The thing that's also interesting is Brandon Marshall coming into that year was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, had 5 consecutive years of over 1,000 yards receiving. And then the next 2 years with the Bears, he had 1,000 yards before falling off in 2014 and only getting 721.
Yeah, well, Brandon also just wasn't happy in Miami. He also had that stuff with his wife going on. So
the question that I was going to ask is Dez, because it's a little bit of a different situation, and he hasn't had 5 straight years of 1,000-yard seasons, is even the price of 2/3 too high for Dez? To where it's like, you know what, we haven't seen the production from you, or is it like, no, we're trading because of your name alone, and if we can get you for 2/3, that's a steal for us?
I would say 2/3. I would say 2/3 might be. I think that would I think Dez, not only with the name, but also taking in the fact that he's just been injured, I think that would probably drive down the price a little bit. I think 2/3 would probably be what he's worth. Maybe a third, and then a fourth that has like those different clauses on it. So like if you make the playoff, it turns into a third.
Yeah.
Something like that, or maybe like a fifth, and then if it's make the playoffs, it's a fourth, and if you make the Super Bowl, it's a third. I think that could be it, but like a third, and I don't think you're going to get a second for Dez. I don't think you're going to get a first for Dez, just because of the contract, him not being 100% healthy throughout the past 3 years, and also not being the same wide receiver for the past 3 years.
Because San Francisco could make that work. They have Chicago's third, which is the 70th overall pick, and they have their own, which is the 74th. So if they really wanted to, before the draft, like make a trade like that work, they could give the 70th and the 74th. And that'd be 2/3 for Dez Bryant.
And again, like we mentioned it, Dez is obviously a dangerous piece for Dallas. But you also mentioned Dez didn't have a great year when they made the playoffs in 2016, and they were still fine. Like, he added a different element when he was out on the field, but he wasn't 100% healthy. Cole Beasley, Jason Witten, Terrence Williams still made a decent effort. And then again, if Allen Hurns can be a playmaker on the outside, then again, you don't need Dez. So with the salary cap, with him not being 100% healthy, with having a meeting with Jerry Jones as well to discuss his future, I think that we could totally see Dez Bryant in a different uniform either at the start of the season or by the trade deadline.
Do you think he gets traded this year? Because I don't think he gets traded before the season, but he could get traded before the trade deadline, which is, in the NFL, it kind of seems weird because usually it's most times the trade deadline comes and Mark and I go, holy crap, I can't wait to what we're going to talk about. And then it's like, well, there's no trades.
There's nothing.
There were no trades that happened. It's not like baseball where it's like trades always happen at the trade deadline. Do you think that he could get traded, or not could, will he get traded by the trade deadline this year?
Yes, he will. But it won't be to San Francisco 49ers.
Who will it be to?
88 is already taken by Garrett Selleck. So he can't go to the 49ers.
Who would he go to then? Would a team like the Colts or the Titans try to reach up in there?
I don't think the Colts would.
Because the Titans also could use a main target for Marcus Mariota.
Well, they have a couple guys on the outside. I mean, Corey Davis, obviously, they drafted him high last year. Blanking on the guy's name, who's the quick Rashad Matthews. They have Rashad Matthews as well. But I think, having a goal line threat, because, I mean, Corey Davis is a goal line threat. Like, I don't think the fit's really there with Tennessee. Like, Tennessee could always be adding weapons on the outside to help Marcus Mariota. But, again, it's not that much money.
Could it be a team like the Rams who lost Sammy Watkins? A team like
I don't think it's the Rams.
Like,
I think it's going to be a team that we're not thinking of.
What about the Houston Texans?
I think Houston, no. Because, I mean, they have
they have
Braxton, they have DeAndre Hopkins, they have Will Fuller. I mean, they have a lot of weapons on the outside. The team that I thought of, and maybe this is sacrilegious or maybe it's kind of fitting, I don't know if they want to trade him to an NFC team, but why not send him back to Lambeau? As a Bear fan, I hate saying that.
I mean,
but again, you always need help for Aaron Rodgers. They lost Jordy. If they're possibly getting desperate and thinking they need another weapon, I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be in the right
conspiracy theory-ish or tinfoil hat, a deal that revolves around a Dez Bryant Randall Cobb swap, because the Packers have been. It's been rumored that they're not happy with Randall Cobb and are probably going to get rid of him at the end of this year. It wouldn't be the whole deal. It's not a straight up deal.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Just having those two be
for Draymond.
Yeah, again, I'm not even fully sold on the Packers. I just threw it out there just because you look at what they've lost. You think that they haven't been where they wanted to be lately. You look at the Kirk Cousins moves. You look at they need a big splash. Going out and getting Dez Bryant could be a big splash.
You know who's a team that could use him, but the Giants I don't think would ever trade him there. The Redskins. The Redskins could
the Cowboys
be a team.
would never trade.
Yes, the Cowboys.
You said the Giants.
The NFC East.
Mixing NFC East. Yeah.
Really, the Cowboys would. I don't think Jerry would want to help the Redskins out at all. And I would not want to see Dez twice a year. Not because it's like, oh, he's going to kill me type of thing, but it's like, if I'm trading you away, I don't want to see you twice a year. But the Redskins could be a team to where it's like their wide receivers, like they don't have much of anything out there.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't seen.
And now you have Alex Smith. If you compare Alex Smith with a top wide receiver.
But also, I mean, look at who Alex Smith was throwing to. Big body, and Travis Kelce doesn't fit the same mold as Dez Bryant. On the outside, he was hitting Tyreek Hill.
I believe the Redskins still have Jordan Reed.
They do, but I'm saying like trying to pair up who Alex Smith has worked with throughout his career.
Yeah,
he hasn't really worked with a Dez Bryant type outside of Chris Conley, who was their third wide receiver last year in the Chiefs, and he didn't really succeed.
He's got Crowder. Okay, they did pick up Paul Richardson, so they got Paul Richardson.
But Paul Richardson's a speedy guy.
Jamison Crowder and Doxson are their 1, 2, 3.
And those all fit the mold. Like those are smaller guys, more possession type receivers. I think if they're going to make a trade, Jerry's going to be smart enough and get them away from the NFC. And so, again, we'll be looking at AFC East teams or AFC teams. So, again, I don't see Tennessee being a fit. I don't think the Colts will make that move. Texans, not really. Jags really don't need them. So, I mean, like, the AFC South is pretty much out. At AFC North, really, none of those teams scream needing a wide receiver. The Bengals really don't make those big of moves, and I don't think they're going to want to pair A.J. Green with Dez Bryant just because, again, that doesn't seem like a Bengal move. Maybe Miami. If Miami thinks that they need to add some help on the outside, especially with losing Jarvis.
How about Baltimore? I know they picked up Michael Crabtree, but would the Ravens think about trading for him to get a wide receiver for Flacco to throw to.
I don't think those two pair well together in Crabtree and Dez Bryant. I just they don't
you don't
seem like a natural fit.
Crabtree and Dez Bryant on
It'd
the
be
outside?
awesome. Yeah, let's throw it back to 2012
Crabtree pulling
or whatever.
free, Dez Bryant trying to do his best 2014 impersonation.
Yeah, you get the Red Raider and the Cowboy
and the Oklahoma State Cowboy.
Yeah, in the Big 12. But yeah, I think it's going to be more like a team like Miami maybe or maybe Buffalo if they get a young quarterback. Maybe they want to get a dangerous wide receiver on the outside, or possibly Arizona. I know that they have Larry Fitz as well, but
Fitz and Dez.
They lost John Brown as well. I know John Brown doesn't really scream Dez Bryant, but again, I think Dez, he doesn't have a crazy contract where you're going to be limiting your team, and then also there's that potential out. So I feel like the Cowboys, if they see enough from Allen Hurns, Dez could possibly go on the trading block for sure.
If Dez doesn't get traded this year, does he get traded in the offseason or 2019, or does he finish his contract out with the Cowboys?
I think he gets bought out after this year.
You think so? Do you think this year's the last year for Dez Bryant?
I have a feeling.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is the last year that Dez Bryant's going to be in a Cowboy uniform. It's nothing that I've heard because I don't talk to anybody in the NFL. It's nothing that, again, there's a writing on the wall. There's
no inside knowledge.
It's literally just a gut feeling that I think we see consistently big name wide receivers not really stick it out on their teams for life. Like Larry Fitzgerald, what he's doing is pretty much an anomaly. And we always talked about him possibly being traded. Same with Calvin. It was always, maybe the Patriots will trade for him. Maybe when's Calvin going to get free from Detroit? Like outside of Larry Fitz and Calvin Johnson and also Antonio Brown, you could throw him in there as well. Like not a lot of these great wide receivers usually stick around because they usually rub people the wrong way. And I think Dez has that ability to do so off the field. So possibly if he just might run out his time in Dallas by the end of the year, especially if he doesn't have another great season in Dallas. If he has another sub 1,000-yard receiving if he has another sub 1,000-yard receiving season, I think it could probably be his last year in Dallas.
Well, and for me, the way I'm kind of seeing it is I'm going to say this year I think he gets traded by the trade deadline, even though I'm not super – that's not a prediction where it's like, man, I'm solid. It's like, I'm kind of okay on that one. But if he doesn't get traded by the trade deadline – he's going to finish out his contract with the Giants. I don't think they buy him out. I don't think Jerry...
Well, it's not a buyout. It's just an out.
Well, I don't think Jerry is that... Like, Jerry is loyal to players, and Jerry's not going to do that. Jerry will then keep him for 2019, and he will finish out his entire contract with the Dallas Cowboys.
I'll say 60% chance that he's traded by the trade deadline, and then a 90% chance that he's not on the Dallas Cowboys after the season.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below with Dez. What do you, Cowboy fans, do you like the Allen Hurns deal? What do you think Allen Hurns is going to bring to your team this year? And then most importantly, what is Dez's future with the Cowboys? Does he get traded this year? Does he finish out his entire contract? Is he bought out at the end of the year? Well, the option at the end of the year. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. But Sean, let's move into our final topic. And what we are looking at is a little bit of NFL draft. We didn't get enough draft with the whole Giants topic that we had at the beginning. We had to talk more draft.
We're less than a month away.
We are. After this month, this is actually the last podcast of March, I believe. So it's really from here on out, we've got next week, we'll have the Primetime Podcast. We'll have the NFL Big Board. Then that next week, it's Mark and I's final mock draft. Then the next week on the website, we have my full 7-round mock draft for every single team. Kind of Todd McShay style, where I'm not going to go first round, second round. It's just going to be like, Browns, here's all your picks. Yeah. And then after that, it's draft week is what we've got. So really, we're in the final kind of snowball for the NFL draft. And then we've got the live stream.
What news is going to come out, and then we got the Dave and I live stream. It's going to be
the Dave and you live stream. We've got what I'm hoping for is ideally that night then we would do what you guys did for the fast break. Do a first round podcast that night. That day is going to be crazy in itself.
It's fun.
Johnny and I, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, Johnny and I at 6 are going to see Avengers that night. Johnny and I then are going to record the review for that night. Then I want to record the first round mock draft podcast that night. Well, not mock draft. The first round draft recap that night. Full day. I took off the day on Friday because I'm like, screw it. I got to do it. Got to give you guys the content. But what I want to look at is a guy that we haven't looked at in a while. I wanted to do this about a couple weeks ago. Gave Mark the decision of topics, and then Mark picked one and this one hit the cutting room floor. Last time I think we talked about him was when Brandon and I did kind of a Mason Rudolph versus him.
That's been a while.
It's been a while. Lamar Jackson. And the thing I want to look at with Lamar is best fits for him. What teams would be the most ideal fit for Lamar Jackson? So how we do on usually those, we just start with one team. I'm going to let you start. Who's the best fit? One of the best fits for Lamar Jackson.
I think the best fit for him overall might be to go to Arizona.
Okay.
I think that Arizona, we talked about them in the Giants segment, talking about them possibly moving up to 2. Obviously, if they move up to 2, they're not going to be taking Lamar Jackson, but I think Arizona could be a nice place for him to develop. It's not going to be a very high-pressure media situation. Arizona's a pretty laid-back town. You're going to have a great wide receiver and great wide receiver help in Larry Fitzgerald, one of the all-time greats. And then it's also a new coach as well, bringing in a new regime. I know that he is a defensive mind from Carolina, but I think that Lamar Jackson being able to really make his own ideas out in Arizona, really doesn't have to deal with any pressure of a legacy quarterback like an Eli Manning out there, or a Big Ben if he goes to Pittsburgh.
Kurt Warner is not a legacy in the all-time history books.
Warner hasn't been there for years,
Exactly.
Ricky. Sam Bradford might not even be there for 3 games. So again, Lamar
Jackson.
Jackson,
He'll be there, just might not be healthy.
Yeah, might not be playing. And I can make these jokes since he's no longer on the Vikings, but.
Yeah.
I think Lamar Jackson needs to be in a situation where there's not a ton of pressure on him. Not really because he can't handle it, just more because I think it's going to be best for his development, because then you won't have the media constantly being like, "Oh, he should be a wide receiver." It's going to be something where he can really grow and develop, and eyes won't be on him unless it's prime time or the playoffs.
Well, really, the thing is, when it comes to Lamar Jackson, it's whether because if the Cardinals don't trade up, then they'll be in prime position. I think like 15 down, there are a couple teams where the Cardinals could be one that go after him. The Saints could be one that goes after him. Maybe Cincinnati at 21. Maybe. Besides that, I don't really see many teams taking a quarterback in the first round. When it comes to Arizona, like you were talking about, the thing I like, and ideally Sam Bradford would be healthy the whole year. If Sam Bradford can kind of go shades of his first year in Minnesota and stay healthy, then you don't need Lamar Jackson to be on the field and be a starting quarterback. You can let him learn at least a year, kind of fix some of the things and get used to an NFL game, and then that second year you can throw him out and be your starter.
One thing you said, though, I got to say, not so fast, my friend, a little Lee Corso. I think that teams late in the first round could totally be looking for a quarterback. I mean, we look at these teams. Not only can teams trade back in to try to get a guy that they want, but also we look at these late teams, Pittsburgh, New England. These teams aren't going to have their quarterbacks for a long time. They're going to need a quarterback. They need to really take over the reins. After Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger leave. So looking at those,
he's always talking about retirement.
Exactly, and looking at Lamar Jackson, I really think that he's a guy that can be an NFL quarterback. His athleticism is unreal, but it's got a really good arm. I mean, he doesn't have a powerful arm in the sense of Josh Allen, where Josh Allen's throwing like 62 miles per hour. Where I think
70-yard bombs at the combine.
Yeah, where I think Lamar Jackson was clocked in around like 50 miles per hour, at least with his arm speed. So he's not going to have like a massive cannon like Josh Allen, but he's got an NFL level arm. I mean, it's not anything that he's going to be, limping balls out there like Christian Hackenberg. He's going to have the ability to get the ball down the field, and then also pairing that with his speed to move around in the pocket and creating space for himself to pass. I think it's going to be something that, again, he has all the tools, the physical gifts to be an NFL quarterback. Again, it's just the size that worries me, and that's really the only worries I have about Lamar Jackson. But again, he's not a pick that, he's not a Josh Allen who's 6'6" or 6'5" that has mobility and also a cannon of an arm. He's not Sam Darnold, who's a crazy great athlete. He's not a great football mind like Josh Rosen. He's just a great football player. And
he's an athlete.
Yeah, and I think that teams like Pittsburgh and New England might be able to realize that. And again, we look at Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't a crazy prospect coming out of the draft. I mean, he was a first-round prospect, but again, he went 24th overall. But the Packers realize that he is a quarterback, he's a football player. And I think that if Pittsburgh and New England realize that, and knowing their history of just developing players, they could take a shot at him and be like, all right, you are our next guy. You have the ability to grow and work on your accuracy and your arm strength, but you're also going to be working under two great minds in Big Ben and in Tom Brady.
Let me put it this way. One thing I forgot about, I just looked it up. This Thursday is Louisville's Pro Day. You know what question I forgot to ask you at the very beginning of the segment?
Yeah, buddy.
at the combine, they asked Lamar Jackson, they said, you're not running the 40 today. When you run the 40 at your pro day, what time are you going to run? He said 4.3. Does he hit 4.3 on Thursday at the pro day? Does he come to fruition and say, I am running a 4.340?
If he hits a 4.3, that is going to shoot him upwards. I mean, like, because not only is that going to make him viable, again, I know people hate to bring this up. I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver in the NFL.
That's why he didn't run it at the combine. Yeah. He didn't want to be a wide receiver.
I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver in the NFL. But God forbid he just doesn't pan out. If he has 4.3 speed, he could turn into a wide receiver. So
Terrelle Pryor-esque?
A little bit different because Terrelle Pryor wasn't a quarterback.
But I mean, that same kind of like quarterback to wide receiver, or like Braxton Miller, quarterback, wide receiver.
Yeah, but I mean, Braxton was drafted as a wide receiver. Yeah. Terrelle Pryor they wanted him to be a quarterback because he had the body, but I mean, he wasn't a quarterback. Like, he couldn't be an NFL quarterback. I know, again, he has that 98-yard touchdown run, but like, again.
Is it weird that both, unless my memory is lapsing here, both of those Ohio State guys too, right?
Yeah.
Braxton Miller and Terrelle Pryor going to wide receiver.
But with Lamar Jackson, I think that, again, he has the ability to be a quarterback in the NFL. And I think that if teams realize that and want to commit him, because the one thing, too, is he's going to be motivated. He wants to prove everybody wrong. That's a big thing in the NFL. When you have guys that are this talented, again, if he's a 4.3, if he's running a 4.3 as a quarterback, that's unheard of. Like, so, I mean, you're getting a next-generation athlete with a mindset of, hey, I want to prove everybody wrong. That could lead to all-time great status. Again, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is going to be an all-time great, but if you put him in the right system, say New England, he has that motivation like an a la Tom Brady did, coming up to Robert Kraft saying this is the best pick you ever made as a 6th-round draft pick. You know, if he has that mindset of, I need to prove everybody wrong, that's going to boast him in front of everybody else in this QB class. So that possibly puts him, you know, again, back up to maybe top 15 status. But again, if he falls late in the first round, I could totally see a team taking a shot at him.
Here's my team. My first team that I would love to see him go to, the New Orleans Saints. Not only is it the first thing very simple, they play in a dome. 8 games are in a dome. Mike Vick, who's the NFL comparison on NFL.com for Lamar Jackson. I know it's easy. Yeah. But Mike Vick played in a dome. You get those type of players in a dome, not having to worry about the weather, not having to worry about slipping on the turf. They're going to be fast. Another thing that's going to really help him is RPOs. Being in a system that's going to run play ops. What better system than, hey, let's do that with Ingram, with Kamara, with the wide receivers that they have out there in New Orleans. I get that they have Drew Brees. I get it. You're going to sit behind Drew Brees until Drew is done. But that's even better. You get to sit there and learn, and then when you come out, we've got all these guys. We've got the weapons for you, and we're in a prime stadium for you to succeed.
And also in the Drew Brees mindset. I'll call him Brew Drees. Brew Drees mindset. Brew was saying...
You're just going to call him Brew the rest of the podcast.
Again, Brew had that mindset as well of saying, you know, hey, I need to prove everybody wrong. Was kicked out of San Diego. He was small.
Almost went to Miami to play for Nick Saban.
Yeah. Again, he was a small guy, wanted to prove everybody wrong. And I think back to the Dan Patrick when he's reading off his negatives in his draft profile. He takes that. Like, that was back in 2000, and he's still trying to work on himself.
Can I keep this?
Yeah,
motivation?
Love that. I absolutely love that. So that's something that, again, if you want to compare him, or if you want to put him in a system, not only where he can learn from a great offensive mind, Sean Payton, put him in an offensive-minded coach that's going to put him in the best system and also work under a guy who's been in the same shoes, it's a great fit. But, again, will they want to address that? I mean, again, that's a Saints team that doesn't have a lot of holes.
Yeah.
That you could take a chance at a guy like Lamar Jackson if you believe in him. One thing, I'm going along the same line, thought process of you, but it's a little bit out there. It's a little bit more, we're going to connect a lot of tissues and a lot of things have to go right for this to happen.
Is this what you were telling me? You kind of teased this to me before we started recording?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, this is going to take a lot, and you might not like it because it involves some Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
I was thinking, all right, we need a great offensive mind. We need a guy who can run RPOs. We need a guy.
You're taking DiFilippo away from me, aren't you?
Shut up. We need a guy that's going to be smart. We need a guy that's going to be an up-and-coming great NFL head coach. So what happens is, Le'Veon Bell, is he going to play this year? Oh, it's really going to hurt that Pittsburgh offense. Oh, no, Big Ben, he's breaking down. He's getting hurt. You don't have that leader in the middle in Pittsburgh. And Mike Tomlin goes 7-9 in the AFC North. Not only finishes behind the Baltimore Ravens, who win the division, he also finishes behind the Browns because they win the tiebreaker.
Wow.
Like, Tomlin gets fired. John DeFlippio comes over.
And becomes their head coach.
Who did they draft in the first round last year?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. And Big Ben retires. He has Antonio Brown to throw to. Le'Veon Bell repairs his relationship with the Modell family, Heinz Field, and Pittsburgh. He comes back on RPO of Lamar Jackson, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown.
I mean, even without the Tomlin firing, I would not mind it if the Steelers drafted Lamar Jackson.
No, that's why it wouldn't be bad because he's still there.
Like you need an option to Big Ben calling it quits, and it's kind of the proactive reactive, or of are we going to be proactive, draft a guy at 28th overall to be like, all right, Ben, when you do call it quits, we'll have a guy, or are we going to be reactive? All right, he called it quits. Now we're going to go ahead and get our guy. I've got a different scenario for you, and I don't know if I'm in love with this scenario, but it could work. So there's a team drafting 5th overall that could use a quarterback. However, whenever you ask John Elway, whether you ask Vance Joseph, yeah, I've already given away the team. It's the Denver Broncos. Whenever you ask them, they go, Case Keenum's our guy. Yeah. Case Keenum's our guy. It's a dream that he's here. Case Keenum's our guy. Chances of Denver getting to 5, with me, how the top 4 works out, if a guy like Bradley Chubb is there, if a guy like Quentin Nelson is there at 5, them saying, no, Baker Mayfield, no, Josh Rosen, we are going to pass on you guys. We're going to take the offensive line help because we could definitely need it. We're going to take the edge rush if that offensive lineman is not there because the Giants go ahead and take him.
Yeah.
And then later in the first, they, with a package of their 40th pick, a la what the Seahawks and the Vikings did a few years ago.
To get Teddy.
The Broncos trade up back into the first round late on draft night and take Lamar Jackson to back up Case Keenum until... Notice how all of my teams, it's until he's ready to take over a job, because I think the best ideal situation for Lamar Jackson is one that's not going to throw him in right away.
But also one thing, too, is, I mean, let's look at the NFL. How many teams desperately need a franchise quarterback? Dallas has Dak. Right now, New York's saying they're sticking with Eli for the next 2 years. Philly has 2, apparently, and Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. Washington has Alex Smith, who they just signed for 5 years. Chicago Bears have Jesus 2.0 and Mitch. Detroit has Stafford. Packers have Rodgers. Vikings have Kirk. Falcons have Ryan. Panthers have Newton. I'm going to go through this because there's literally no Newton. Saints have Breeze, but we mention him again until he's ready. Tampa has Jameis. We'll see how long that sticks because, Jameis hasn't been fantastic.
I think the shorter list is who doesn't.
Exactly. Arizona. We'll throw New York in just because that's one.
You're saying the Jets?
Both.
Yeah.
The Giants and Jets.
I'm going to throw in Miami because Tannehill coming off of an injury, and how confident are they in Tannehill?
But if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill was great in the first year with Adam Gase.
And one of the things that I was going to throw out is with Buffalo, what if they don't work out a deal to trade up? Then at 12, that might be too high to take Lamar. Do they take something else at 12 and then Lamar at 22?
Yes, that could happen. But again, I'm in the mindset if you love a quarterback, take him because he might not be there because someone might trade up.
So you're saying take Lamar at 12. Take Lamar at 12 if you like him.
If you love him. So let's talk about this because what time are we at?
We got time.
Okay. All right, so at 1, we're thinking Browns go QB, going Sam Darnold. 2, are we gonna say? Are we saying a team trades up and goes up and gets him?
I'm gonna say the Giants. Right now, if I had to pick, the Giants stay there, and the Giants will go with Bradley Chubb.
Okay, so then Jets are going quarterback.
Well, Saquon.
Okay.
Saquon.
Okay, then Jets are going quarterback. Let's say they go Allen because I think I've heard that they've liked his arm.
2 off the board.
So Browns aren't going another quarterback. Broncos are iffy, but if Quentin Nelson is there, they'll most likely go there. Colts aren't taking one. Bucks aren't taking one. Bears aren't taking one. Niners aren't taking one. Oakland's not taking one. Miami. So, really, there's a long list until you start hitting those quarterback runs where it's 11, 12. At the Dolphins and Bills, they need quarterbacks. So right there, at that point, with the Bills being on the clock, so then what? That's 4 quarterbacks off the board? So they'd be Darnold, Allen, Rosen, and Baker if we're going with most people's top 4.
So the Bills could technically get one of those top 4 even at 12.
Yeah. So then at 15 are the Cardinals. So that's where Lamar could that would probably be where I would say that 11 12, 15 spot are the earliest Lamar Jackson could go.
And an interesting team that I've always written off because I don't think that they would go quarterback, but every single article I see for a best fit for Lamar Jackson has this team on it. Do you see Cincinnati drafting a quarterback, especially in the first? Because I don't.
No, I don't see that happening.
Andy Dalton, people might be upset with Andy Dalton and might be upset with what the Bengals are right now, but it's not Andy Dalton's fault. It's that head coach that you keep giving contracts to.
Cincinnati's so backwards because they can keep saying, we're not Cleveland. Like, literally, we're not Cleveland. Oh, hey, we haven't made the playoffs, but at least we're not Cleveland. Hey, we're the better city. At least we're not Cleveland.
How does Marvin Lewis still have a job?
No, but that's the thing. Is like they're a better city.
How does he have a job?
They're more well off than Cleveland is right now, both from an economic standpoint and like team wise. But they're not great. But they can keep saying, "Hey, look at the little brother. Hey, he's a meth head in the back seat. We at least have a job at McDonald's." Like
are the Browns the meth head? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then the Bengals are the night shift manager at McDonald's. So like they have a job at least, but it's something crazy. He's still living in mom's basement.
At least I'm not on drugs.
Exactly.
That's basically what they're saying.
Well, the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So like with the Bengals, they're backwards enough to where they think Andy Dalton's the future, and I don't think they're gonna take another quarterback because they just had AJ McCarron and they didn't trade him. They didn't get anything for him. They let him walk.
Didn't get the paperwork in on time.
Let him walk.
Didn't get the paperwork in on time.
Totally see the Bengals not taking a quarterback, not getting a backup, and taking like a 6th-round pick from like Duquesne's. Or Duquesne's, whatever that fucking school's called. Like taking a school from like taking a quarterback from like an NAIA school, like taking a guy from Marion.
Okay.
Like I could see the Bengals totally screwing it up. I think they need a quarterback because I don't trust in Andy Dalton.
Are they the Browns? Are they the Browns 2.0, the future Browns, the future cellar dwellers in the
up. So like if
AFC North,
if the Browns were like a common gun in Fortnite. Bengals are like the what's a one up? It'd be green.
Is it the blue?
It'd be a green gun.
Green, then the blue,
then
the
blue,
purple,
then
the orange.
The gold.
Is it gold?
It's gold.
Okay.
But yeah, they'd be the green pistol.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an upgrade.
You're not that much better, but it's like at least I'm using this over the
It looks
light.
better in the bar. You know, it looks better, but you're still gonna get killed because you're using a pistol.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah.
You've been winning a lot of Fortnite games.
I got. This is totally off tangent. So I got to I was in top
Final
3.
three?
I was in top 3.
All right.
And I was going up against this guy. Such BS, man. Because I was trying to heal, and the guy hit me with a rocket, and I threw my controller and broke it. So
we
got to
play with Jake sometime. We got to squad up.
He hasn't accepted my friend request, so shout out to Jake. He doesn't watch these.
You, man. That's
he only watches the fast break.
Well, he should be venturing over.
Getting back on track.
Yeah.
Again, like 11, 12, 15, I think are the earliest Lamar Jackson can go. But then after that, 17, Chargers, we consistently talk about them trying to get a quarterback for the future.
I don't know if they do.
Again, but that I'm just saying, like that's a possibility.
It depends on who's there, too. Like if a Vita Vea's there for some reason, they're not going quarterback. They're going Vita Vea.
Yeah. And then, we'll look at the Saints at 27 then. So it's like, it's really probably 11, if this order holds true, 11, 12, 15, then we threw in 22 again, just because it's the Bills. We'll throw in 17, and then I would probably say 27, 28, and then 31 are the spots that he could go in the first round. But I think he's a first-round quarterback. It's just really where is he going to fall? Because at some point, someone's going to trade up and get him.
Last thing I'm going to ask him. I am unsure on this because, to me, there are 3 answers to this question. It's either 4, 5, or 6. How many quarterbacks go in the first round on the first night of the draft? 4, 5, or 6. So it's basically
I want to make sure.
The top 4, which would be Darnold, Allen, Baker, and Rosen.
Yes.
And then if it's 5, then Lamar gets taken. If it's 6, Mason Rudolph gets taken also.
5.
All right.
I don't think Mason Rudolph's going number in the first round.
You don't think, like, if, let's say, Lamar's the 5th and he goes off the board at 15, that a team like the Saints, the Pittsburgh, the Patriots take a Mason Rudolph at the end of the first to make it 6 in the first round?
If the Patriots take Mason Rudolph in the first round, I will throw up. Like that.
Like
that don't want Mason Rudolph.
Hey man, that might be good for the live stream then. Seeing Sean just throw up.
I think
we can gain a lot of subscribers with that. Sean.
I think there are 5 first-round quarterbacks. I think there's 5 quarterbacks that go in the top 15 in Jackson, and then those 4 other guys. I could even see Jackson going in front of Baker. and I think even Schefter tweeted out that some team has Lamar Jackson as their second-rated quarterback. Again, they might not be the 15, in the top 15 best players in this draft overall, but again, quarterback's the most important position, so that's going to change that draft completely. You need to get the guy that's going to change your quarterback. Minkah Fitzpatrick might be a fantastic safety, might be an all-time safety, but we've seen these guys. Let's just look at Brian Urlacher, a guy that just was never able to win a Super Bowl, being one of the best linebackers of all time, and not being able to win a Super Bowl because he didn't have a quarterback. Like, you can have these game changers on defense. You can have these game changers on the offensive line, like a Joe Thomas, who made 10 All-Pros, never had a quarterback, made it to the playoffs once, right? With Derek Anderson, did they make the playoffs that year?
Don't think so.
I don't think Joe Thomas made the playoffs. So, like, you can have these game changers. You can have these all-time greats on your team. But if you have a quarterback, it's not going to do anything. So you need to take a quarterback. That's what's going to change this. I know people are saying, like, I wouldn't take Lamar Jackson in the top 30. Well, you're going just based off numbers. You're not going based off of, like, you're going based off who's the best, who's, like, off that. I see guys consistently on draft Twitter just saying, oh, Lamar Jackson isn't even a top 50 player on the draft. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Joe Thomas has never made the playoffs.
It's about position. It's about how that player can change your team. And yes, Bradley Chubb might be an all-time great when it comes to rushing the quarterback, but if you don't have a quarterback that's going to put up points, you're not going to the playoffs. So that's the reason why these guys might not be conventional top 15 picks, but those top 15 picks are going to win you playoff games. So
the last time the Browns made the playoffs, it was...
Was I born?
It was 12 days before my 13th birthday. It was January 5th, 2003.
Okay. So I was 6.
You were 6.
No, I was 5 because that was January.
Yeah.
I was 5 years old.
So that was, like I said, 12 days before my 13th. Like, that was me. What grade was I in? So January of 13, I would have been 7th grade. 7th grade, the last time the Browns made the playoffs. And they lost to the Steelers in that first round game.
Makes sense.
They lost to the Steelers. Let me click on the box score. What was the score of that game? That score was 36-33. The 11-5-1 Steelers beat the 9-8 Cleveland Browns.
And the last time ever before that was January 1st, 1985, where my mom was 2 years away from having me, and on her 20th birthday.
I was 4 years old at the time because it was before my birthday then too. When the last time they've only made it to the playoffs twice in my lifetime, and I don't remember one of them for sure. I'm sure I remember watching the 2002, 2003 one, but I don't really remember it. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below. Lamar Jackson, who is his best fit in the NFL? Where do you think he is going to go? And also, what if you see this before Thursday? What's going to be? Is it going to be before Thursday? No, this will. If you listen to the full podcast, you will listen to this before Thursday. If you're catching this on YouTube, he will have already ran his 40-yard time.
Oh yeah,
because this will go up Friday.
I'm going to say 4.41.
Okay, so close. Yeah. I'm going to go 4.3. He's a man of his word.
A 4.3 is insane.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it and instantly become we are going to be talking about should he be taken over one of the top 4 because of it.
I think. If memory serves me correctly, I think the fastest recently was Mariota, who ran a 4.5. There's not.
You're talking just quarterbacks,
good quarterbacks, good quarterbacks. I'm not saying some guy from Pitt who turned into a running back. I'm saying actual quarterbacks who've played in the league. I think Mariota's probably the quickest one, or Jameis might have had a quicker one than him. I think that was one of the things. But yeah, I think it was either Jameis or Mariota.
RG3 had a 4.41.
Forgot about that. I think you can run RG3 10.
RG3 a 4.41. I mean, Chris Johnson had an unofficial of 4.24.
Okay, that's so that would be running back.
Ridiculous. Yeah, but if he hit that, that would be running back speeds from a quarterback. But let us know what you guys think down below. Housekeeping quick at the end because I'm running out of time. Make sure to check out patreon.com/Most Podcast. You want to support us. T-shirts are down below in the description. That store link. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. And also check out mostvaluablepodcast.com. That's where we keep everything for MVP. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Want to thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Quick T-shirt idea, if you could fit this in. Lamar Jackson quicker than we'll just it'll be a Lamar Jackson silhouette and just say it's quicker than Saquon if he runs up a 4.3.